This is the most confusing smartphone in the market right now. It costs about $500 or about 40,000 rupees. And listen to this. It's got a very mid-level Tensor G2 chip, a Pixel 7-like design at the back but plastic, only up to 18 watts of fast charging and a laughable 7.5 watts of wireless charging. Refresh rate capped at only 90 Hz, an ancient Gorilla Glass 3 display protection, and room for just one nano SIM. No dual SIM, no microSD card slot. And so I'm finding it very hard to wrap my head around the pricing of this device. Now I looked at a couple of other phones in this price segment to understand where the Pixel 7a really stands, and I'm left wondering what this phone really has to offer. So right out of the box, you get the phone, the cable, and for some reason they give you this USB-A to Type-C adapter. Why? And you don't get a protective case, you don't get a pre-applied screen protector, you don't get a charging brick, and obviously you don't get any earphones. The phone definitely looks great and premium to hold on to. It's got a nice metallic frame, but the first thing that will strike you is its thickness. See, it's only got a 4385 mAh battery, but it's still really thick. I mean, look, I don't mind the thickness, but I should at least get better battery capacity in return. The back is all plastic, the visor is metal, but if you just look at it, it almost looks like glass. I would say that's a good thing. I mean, you get a premium look at a lower price. It's a win. It's also IP67 water and dust resistant, so it's another win. However, my biggest gripe with the design is actually the placement of the buttons. The volume rocker is placed exactly where most phones have the power button. So every time I go to unlock my phone, I actually accidentally increase the volume by mistake first. I mean, it's definitely something that'll take me, just a bit of time to get used to it, but I just don't understand why Google does it. The other thing is it's just a single nano SIM device. So no option for dual SIM and no microSD card slot for expanding storage. I love the size though. Very handy, very easy and comfortable to use even with just one hand. It's got a nice solid in-hand feel. Overall, very enjoyable to keep in your hand or pocket. And so while it looks and feels pretty good, it's the small battery capacity, the inappropriate placement of buttons, and the lack of dual SIM tray which are kind of annoying. I also want to point out that in the last 10 days that I've been using it, I've realized it's a pretty risky device to be using without a protective case. It is slippery. I mean, quite a few times I was about to drop it and it was just going to slide out of my hand and crash. Just something to be aware of. Definitely get a case. Now, okay, I can make my peace with the design issues. It's actually the display that kind of pissed me off. The 6.1-inch display size is fine. The OLED technology is good. But other than that, the screen refresh rate is capped at 90 Hz and the brightness levels are sort of poor. Even when I'm indoors, I constantly keep the brightness levels at 90%. I mean, do you know how inefficient that is? I mean, I keep my Samsung phones at about 30% brightness indoors and they work just fine. And 90 Hz. I mean, devices at half the price are offering 120 Hz. So Google, I'm not sure what your strategy is, but I'm not liking it, at least about the display. And did I talk about the bezels? I mean, it doesn't look bad, but for a 2023 phone that has launched at $500, you'd expect thinner bezels, especially from Google. Even if you compare it with similarly priced 3-year-old Galaxy S10 Lite, you can see what I mean. Look, it's not a bad display, it's just that for this price, I just think it's inadequate. Now, let's talk about performance, and I've got mixed feelings. See, if you just compare it straight away to benchmark scores, it's actually quite inferior. Even if I remove the S23 Ultra from the equation and compare to similarly priced smartphones, it still looks quite bad. But I said mixed feelings because those low performance scores, they don't get in the way of letting you, get things done on the phone. So whether it's launching apps or moving between them, quickly taking out your phone, capture a super quick moment, or even play online multiplayer games at high graphics, or even ultra frame rates, not a problem. Totally enjoyable and with zero lag. It's 8 gigs of RAM, it's got UFS 3.1 fast storage, just about enough to give you decent performance. It's nothing crazy, but it's not gonna let you, complain at the end of the day. Also, a lot of the flagship smartphones have powerful chips, and a lot of the heavy lifting that those CPUs do is process photos and videos, get the HDR right, or do pixel binning, or get very clean, low light photos and stable videos. But The Pixel 7a, even with this Tensor G2 chip, get quite a lot of that done pretty well. And so let's actually talk about the cameras. At the back, you get a 64 megapixel primary camera with OIS and a 13 megapixel ultra wide lens. It's got dual LED flash and it can shoot 4K videos to up to 60 FPS. That is cool. But you know what? Let's get right into camera samples. So here are some samples taken using the primary camera, and these are easily one of the best and the most natural looking photos that I've seen. Of course, like most other Pixel devices. So the Pixel 7a has a 64 megapixel camera but uses all of those pixels and bends it down to a 16 megapixel photo to create a very detailed, color accurate and dynamically adjusted photo. The result is right in front of you. It's impeccable. In fact, even if you compare it to super high-end flagships that cost nearly 3 times the Pixel 7a, you can just see how amazing the Pixel 7a is when it comes to regular photos in good lighting conditions. Portrait photos are also really good. The edge detection is on point. The background blur is gradual and it feels somewhat natural. And again guys, if you want to compare it with flagships, it is giving them tough competition. In fact, this is a very tricky one, and the Pixel 7a has done so much better than what the S23 Ultra or the iPhone 14 Pro could do. Kudos to Google for this. I also want to point out that Pixel devices tend to be the most consistent between primary and ultra-wide lens photos when it comes to color tone and white balance. Now, when it comes to evening low light or nighttime with decent artificial lighting, the 7a even then does a phenomenal job. Now look at this quick comparison between all three again, and I'm not kidding, the Pixel 7a actually has done the best job. iPhone unnecessarily just made the sky blue while it was actually about 6:30 p.m. at that time. Even in this picture, the yellow barricade is the most color accurate on the Pixel 7a. However, in this situation, when it was totally dark, the Pixel 7a finally struggled, and this is probably one of the very few rare scenarios where the Pixel 7a could not compete with the flagships. Even selfies turned out to be so good. The color tones are absolutely on point. Just love the detailing and how natural the selfies turned out to be. Alright, so guys, this is the front video camera on the Google Pixel 7a. I'm shooting at 4K resolution, which by the way, it only shoots at up to 30 FPS. Okay, you don't get 60 FPS on the Pixel 7a. There is like a bit of a zoom that you can do like that, and then you can head back. And yeah, so this is the quality. I'm also using the inbuilt microphone, so you get an idea of how good the microphones are. And yeah, so this is what it looks like. And lastly, here's a 4K video shot using the primary camera. It can shoot up to 60 FPS by the way, and it supports optical image stabilization, so you do get a fairly decent footage given the right lighting. In low light, again, the Pixel 7a did struggle. I also want to point out something real quick, that if you're using the cameras outdoors or even indoors for about 5 to 6 minutes straight, it does start to get hot. And if you're already in temperatures that are hot, like I'm in Delhi, summers are crazy hot over here, it sort of is a very unpleasant experience. At least that's what I had to go through. Now, in terms of software, well, it's Google and they pretty much dictate what happens on Android, right? So they actually do it quite well. So right out of the box, you get Android 13 and you'll see that all applications, all of them, except for the ones that I installed separately, are Google apps. And so no bloatware, no additional apps, it's clean, it's pure Google experience. And what you have to know about Pixel phones is that Google apps, they work the best on Pixel phones. So if you were to use Google Translate or speech to text conversion or even the Google keyboard, they will always work better, faster, and with more accuracy on a Pixel device. I mean, you have to use it to understand what I'm really saying. There are little things like charging animation, which is quite cool. The haptics on this thing are so good, one of the best I've experienced. Features like now playing that tell you which song is playing around you. Then there's flip to silence. When you take a picture, you instantly get options to share through various social media apps. You can configure double tapping on the backside to perform various frequent tasks. You can double twist to switch between front and back camera, and even create certain rules as to when to change profile of your phone depending on where you are, at work, at home, or at gym. I mean, I could go on and on talking about all the software tricks that the Google Pixel phones have, but that could be a whole series of other videos. And lastly, let's talk about battery on this thing, and I'm gonna just say it out that it's not that great. I mean, if you have hectic full day use or that you're always out in the street all day long, it's not going to last you the entire day. You get about 5 to 6 hours of screen on time, which may not be enough for a lot of people. And so unless you've got an opportunity to be able to charge your phone sometime around 4 or 5 in the evening, I suggest you get another phone. And on top of that, it charges really slowly. It's 18 watts, takes about 1.5 to 2 hours to charge from a 0 to 100, which is a lot, given 2023 May. And it's got 7.5 watts of wireless charging, which is... Look guys, overall I just want to say that this is a really good phone, but just not at this price. Because at this price point, I expect 120Hz refresh rate, a brighter display, Gorilla Glass 5 display protection, faster charging speeds, dual nano SIM, and Google. If you don't want to give all of that, then at least add more value to your package. You could throw in a charging brick, a protective case, a pre-applied screen protector, and maybe make the base storage as 256 gigs. And all of that adds some value and makes the consumer feel, all right, I can spend. But yeah, other than that, pretty good cameras, a very solid build, and the Android experience on this is really something else. Do keep in mind that it is possible that the price for this device does drop in about a month or two, and I think that would be a really sweet deal. So if you can get this phone for about 30 or 32,000 rupees, but about $450 or maybe $400 if you're lucky, then this phone is really good. Alright, and that is pretty much it guys about the Pixel 7a. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me in the comment section. And as always, if you enjoyed watching the video, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel guys. You guys are not subscribing enough. And hit that bell notification icon and mark all so my videos get to you when I do put them out. I'll see you guys in the next one.